Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Makoto Uchida, the president of Nissan Motor Company. As president for Nissan Motor Company, I would like to extend to you a warm welcome and thank you for coming to the Nissan Extraordinary General Meeting of Shareholders today. In accordance with the Articles of Incorporation of the company, I will preside over this meeting today. And please understand that this meeting is wholly broadcasted through the internet in order to give access to people who were not able to join us on site today. Now, I hereby declare the opening of the Extraordinary General Meeting of Shareholders of Nissan Motor Company Limited. I hereby submit, as matter to be dealt with at this meeting, the proposed item as stated in the notice of the convocation. In addition, I would like to explain the change of candidate in today's item, election of 4 directors. After the general meeting was convened by the board of directors, a candidate for director, Mr. Jun Seki, applied for resignation from executive officer and vice COO of the company. Accordingly, at the nominating committee meeting held on December 26, 2019, it was decided that Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto would be a candidate for director. In light of the above circumstances, we have sent a leaflet stating that we have changed the candidate for director to Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto, and that his biography and the reasons for his nomination, in addition to the original notice of the convocation in which Mr. Jun Seki was listed as candidate for director. Please refer to both the notice of the convocation and the leaflet when discussing the item of this meeting. I have a few requests in order to make this meeting run smoothly. Your cooperation would be highly appreciated. I will notify you when we reach question and answer session. So please reserve any question, opinions, and remarks, including the motion for that session. In case a foreign director or officer gives an answer or explanation, it will be simultaneously interpreted into Japanese. Although the safety of this hall was confirmed before this meeting, in case of any emergency, information will be provided by designated staff members. To begin with, I now ask Tatsumi-san, Corporate Vice President, to report on the number of voting rights held by the shareholders present today. Allow me to make a report as follows. As of December 20th, 2019, there were a total of 578,532 shareholders and 4,220,715,112 outstanding shares. Out of these, 560,408 shareholders have voting rights, and these shareholders hold a total of 41,915,117 units, which is equivalent to 4,191,511,700 shares. Next, I will report the number of voting rights held by shareholders participating in today's meeting. There are 124,506 shareholders who have submitted the notice of exercise of voting rights forms or exercised their voting rights through the internet. The number of the voting rights is 14,514,136 units, amounting to 35% of the total number of voting rights held by all shareholders. There are a total of 421 shareholders in attendance today who hold 19,195,988 units of voting rights. The combined total comes to 124,127 shareholders having 19,195,988 units of voting rights, amounting to 80% of total number of voting rights held by all shareholders. Thank you, Mr. Tatsumi-san. The shareholders present today hold the number of voting rights as reported by Tatsumi-san. Accordingly, I now declare that the quorum necessary to deliberate on the full agenda of this meeting have been met. Before the deliberation of proposed items, I would like to explain the process of holding this meeting and our future tasks.
いただきたいと存じます。まずはじめに当社は
Last June, Nissan gained your approval at the annual general meeting of the shareholders to make fundamental changes to our previous corporate governance structure that had enabled an executive misconduct to happen and the company transitioned to a 3 statutory committee format. The new management team that was appointed last December is carrying out drastic reforms to regain trust and restore the company's performance. Then, there was the extraordinary flight of the ex-chairman from Japan. It was a stunning turn of events, and we find it extremely regrettable. Nonetheless, Nissan remains firm and will continue taking appropriate legal action. The purpose of the meeting today is to obtain your approval to renew the board and elect a successor to the director who resigned prior to the end of the allotted term. Upon your approval, 3 executive officers, including myself, and 1 candidate to succeed the director who resigned will join the board. Executive officers, including myself, are taking charge of business administration. To keep our operations healthy, the board members, including myself, who are also responsible for execution, are presenting our operational policies to the board of directors and expect the board to ensure effective monitoring. I will uphold this principle and as CEO, steer the company. Let me present the company's current status and the challenges we are addressing. For the third quarter of the fiscal year 2019, weaker than expected sales performance resulted in a significant decrease of both revenues and profits. Nissan sales were stable in China despite a drop in demand, while our sales in North America and Europe decreased. As a result, Nissan's global sales volume stood at 3,697,000 units and our global market share was 5.7%. For the 9-month period, consolidated net revenues totaled 7.507 trillion yen. Operating profit was 54.3 billion yen and net income was 39.3 billion yen. We are working to improve the quality of sales in markets including the United States. Revenues and incentives per unit are improving and contributing to our bottom line. However, declining sales had a significant negative impact. As a result, Nissan saw a significant decrease in profits. We know we are doing the right thing, and it is critical to remain focused. Yet, it will take time for the U.S. business to recover as we prepare to launch new technologies and products in the market. We recognize the results the company has delivered so far, the economic uncertainties, and the market slowdowns. Given the current circumstances, Nissan revised its full-year guidance for global sales to 5.05 million units, down 3.6% from the previous forecast. We foresee challenges in our earnings and free cash flow for the rest of the fiscal year. At the same time, we cannot afford any delay in investments on future technologies and product developments. Taking all this into consideration, we would like to propose not to distribute a year-end dividend for the fiscal year 2019. Let me express my sincere regret to you, our shareholders. We decided this was the right thing to do in order to concentrate our resources on the business transformation and investments for the future.
思います。当社
Nissan is carrying out its business transformation plan to restore profits and attractive shareholder return as soon as possible. This will take time, so we thank you for your patience. Nissan has strong technologies and attractive products, and a series of new products is coming to the markets. Steady growth through new products, new technologies, and Nissan Intelligent Mobility is a critical pillar that will determine the company's future. I am confident we can make this a reality. Regarding new technologies, we launched the new Skyline in Japan. The car features ProPilot 2.0, which enables multi-lane highway driving and hands-off driving while cruising in a given lane. The new Skyline has been well received and was awarded the Best Innovation Award at the 2019-2020 Japan Car of the Year competition. Regarding electrification, a crossover and a compact car equipped with an updated e-power system and an all-new EV that offers an exciting new driving experience are also coming to the market, starting with Japan. On February 25th, we are going to unveil the new Roox Super Height Wagon. The new Roox, like the Days, is equipped with a system that goes beyond conventional safe driving assistance. ProPilot driver assistance technology controls the vehicle with high precision. As for the new business areas, the second series of field test of Easy Ride, a new mobility service using driverless vehicles, is underway here in Japan. Nissan offers new value to customers. We keep taking on challenges and making breakthroughs. This is the car-making DNA that has been passed down within Nissan for generations. We will package it into technologies and products which we will deliver first to customers in our home market, Japan. You can count on us. Given the current performance, we are reviewing milestones up to 2022. We are going to announce a revised plan, including ways to better leverage the alliance this May. Since I became CEO, I have been listening to feedback from inside and outside the company and started working on the identified challenges. There are 3 of them. First, focus on core competence and develop a stronger financial foundation. To be specific, we will ensure selection and prioritization and fix the high cost structure. Secondly, it's about execution. Better execution and faster implementation. We are accelerating decision-making and simplifying processes. Thirdly, we define raison d'être, corporate purpose, and reform corporate culture for steady growth. We already made some changes to the internal system and processes to get these done. There are 3 words that guide me: respect, transparency, and trust. I have often been reminded of the importance of these words while working with Renault colleagues and business partners in purchasing, and when I more recently led our Chinese joint venture. I trust my team. I empower our people to build a one-team spirit that enables executives and employees alike to take ownership of the direction in which the company is heading and ensure operations that are transparent for all. Immediately after I took office, I have been visiting Nissan sites and dealers around the world. I listened to people and received a lot of suggestions and feedback through frank exchanges. People are concerned about the current situation. At the same time, every person within our group is strongly determined and motivated to make their team, organization, and community better and help to revive Nissan. I am determined and committed to steer Nissan to enable the organization to offer greater customer value through our products and services and to maximize the potential of our people who are the value creators. I want you all to be proud again of being Nissan shareholders. You can count on Nissan to change for the better. Thank you for your kind attention.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
それでは
Now, let me review with you the item to be resolved today.
議案
Item. I would like to present the election of 4 directors. Director Mr. Thierry Bolloré resigned from office on November 11, 2019. Director Mr. Hiroto Saikawa and Director Mr. Yasuhiro Yamauchi will resign from the office at the closing of this meeting. As I mentioned before this proposal, from December 1st, 2019, the company has begun operations under a new execution structure. In order to strengthen the alliance and the management system, including the recovery of its business performance, the company will increase the number of directors by 1 and propose the election of 4 directors, which term will expire as of the closing of 2020 Annual General Meeting of Shareholders. The candidates are Mr. Ashwani Gupta, Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto, Mr. Pierre Florio, and myself, Makoto Uchida, as I mentioned at the opening of this meeting. The brief records of their careers are provided on page 4 to 6 of the notice of the convocation and the leaflet. This is the item to be resolved today. We are now going to receive your questions, opinions, and remarks, including the motion. In order to smoothly facilitate the Q&A session, I have a few requests. I will nominate the questioner in order of the ticket number. So that as many shareholders as possible can ask questions. The number of questions and length of time allotted to each shareholder will be limited to 2 questions to be asked within 3 minutes.
We
would appreciate the cooperation from the shareholders. Questioners are requested to use the microphone in the center of the floor so that everyone can hear. Also, As I mentioned at the beginning, this meeting is broadcasted through the internet. So please state your attendance number before asking your question, and please try to be concise so that we can address as many shareholder questions as possible. When the proposed item has been fully deliberated, the question and answer session may be closed, even though not all the persons who hold tickets have asked questions. Ticket holding shareholders who are not able to ask questions by the close of the session can submit their questions in writing to the company on your way out. A written answer will be sent as soon as possible to each shareholder who submits a question, or submits questions rather. Then, ticket number 1. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question.
最初に
Please state your attendance number and then you ask question.
My number is number 1. Ticket number 1. I have 2 big subjects that I would like to refer to. The first one, it's about the dividend, which was reduced to 10 yen for the fiscal year. It means that you are in the difficulty, so I think you cannot help this. However, if you are going to reduce the dividend by that far, before that, you have to cut the executive compensation or revise the executive compensation. In other words, existing officers of Nissan, given if this item of resolution is approved, 12 directors and 5 executive officers and 40 corporate officers. In total, there are 57 executives in the top management. So what I mean here is that these 57 people in the top management team, your compensation should be less than 10 million yen. Less than 10 million yen. For your reference, directors and executive officers' compensation are determined. And because you are transitioned to 3 statutory committee format, compensation committee, which is chaired by Ihara-san, Keiko Ihara-san, will be resolving the executive compensation. So Ihara-san, you should make a decision here. Ihara-san, directors and executive officers' compensation should be reduced. You should immediately take this decision and make a press release immediately. And earlier, the 40 corporate officers, with regards to 40 corporate officers, CEO and President Uchida-san, I think it's under your authority to decide their compensation. So Uchida-san, earlier, you said that you are guided by the word trust. Trust. You should be brave enough here. There are 40 corporate officers in front of you. You should convince them. Convince them. And make sure they receive a compensation which is less than 10 million yen. Less than 10 million yen. Immediately. You have to make a decision immediately and make a press release immediately. And related to the executive compensation, as of today, Saikawa-san, you are going to step down, I understand. But the difficulty that the company is in, I think you have the responsibility for the difficulty the company is in. You have the part of the responsibility. Saikawa-san, as of today, I'm not sure whether you are receiving the retirement allowance, but don't receive any retirement allowance from the company and say it, state it clearly in the public. So with regards to the first question, Ihara-san, Uchida-san, and Saikawa-san, please give me the answers to each one of them. Thank you. That's the first question. And the second one, Mr. Sonar. This is your question, Mr. Sonar. Last year, on the 25th of June, at the shareholders meeting, on the following day, I saw the media report on the newspaper. After the shareholders meeting, you wrote an Alphard to leave Japan or leave Yokohama. Alphard. And executives of Nissan were enraged. Of course, you were on the competitor's model. Why? You shouldn't do that, Mr. Sonar. You cannot make the alliance successful with that kind of mindset. Mr. Sonar, my question is, why did you use Alphard in the first place? Please give us a clear answer. These are the 2 questions. So, for the first question regarding compensation, I would like to ask Ihara-san, Uchida-san, and Saikawa-san to give answer accordingly. For the second one, I want Mr. Sonar to answer the question. Thank you.
はい、ご質問
Thank you for your question, sir. The decline of the performance of the company is on me. I assume the entire responsibility as CEO. It's everyone's fault, that's what the audience saying. And as you said, the executives, including myself, what to do about the executives going forward. Today, I apologize to you for not being able to make any comment, but we take it seriously, the fact that we made a decision to reduce the dividend for the second half of the year. And in May, we are going to revise the plan, including the midterm plan. By then, all the expense reduction plans and what you propose will be considered and contemplated, and we would like to create an opportunity to make an announcement. One thing that I would like to tell you is that Nissan's ex-chairman misconduct, given the circumstances, we recognize that the corporate governance was weak, and we are taking actions to ensure strong corporate governance, and that has been done under the leadership of Mr. Saikawa. I was handed over by Mr. Saikawa and I am considering how to lead the company and make many of you proud again of being associated with Nissan, and that's all on me. It's my responsibility. So if I may, sir, shareholders, please give us time. I appreciate your patience, including the plan that I referred to. I would like to create an opportunity to make an announcement when we are ready. Therefore, what you indicated just now, as I have been saying, we take it very seriously, with utmost seriousness. I want Nissan to be better. All the top management, including myself, are taking this seriously and working on it. Let's move on to the next one, says the audience.
はい、それでは次の株主の
Okay, next shareholder, please.
最初に
May we have your attendance number, please? Thank you. Thank you. May, I'm still ticket number one. Attendance number one. Mr. Snow hasn't responded to this question.
では砂さんに
Mr. Sanar, could you give an answer, sir?
Of course, good morning, everybody. The event that you mentioned, I had noticed, of course, and as soon as I had noticed this point, I have said that that would never happen again. Logistic made it wrong. I noticed it, and I was the first person to say, never again. So I apologize for that. I'm awfully sorry. And I felt very frustrated when I noticed that the logistic had put me in the wrong car. Thank you very much, and I apologize. Thank you.
はい、それでは
Thank you very much. We'd like to go on to the next shareholder. Your question, please. May we have your attendance number, please? Thank you very much.
3011です。
3011. I think around the world, the reduction in sales of Nissan cars have been quite prominent. And every month, when the numbers are announced, we notice more than 10% drop on a monthly basis, especially in the U.S. The incentive in the U.S. market. At the last AGM, you mentioned that the situation will be improved, but that has not been improved. That is my impression. So, as the previous questioner mentioned, you mentioned that you'll come up with concrete plans in May. That's more than 2 months away. I think that's a bit late, isn't it? So, what are your thoughts? I would appreciate your thoughts, because the share prices are really way down, and all the shareholders here today are very anxious. And I think it's the lowest point this year, the stock price today. I really want you to do a good job, but your announcement is a bit late. So I would appreciate, Mr. Uchida, your thoughts on this matter. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question, madam. First of all, with regard to the North American situation, the improvement thereof, I would like to provide more specific explanation. So the improvement of quality of sales in U.S. is in line with our plan. For example, incentive on a per unit basis, and also with regard to inventory on a year-on-year basis, we have indicated strong improvement on a year-on-year basis. The thing is, though, the overall age of our lineup has had some impact on the level of sales. So therefore, that being the case, we need to, with regard to fundamental review of our business in the United States, I think the direction that we're following is not wrong. Going forward, our core models in the U.S. will be introduced as SVUs in the North American market. So with regard to this main lineup, main models, we will follow this direction that I mentioned earlier. Also, with regard to the value that is presented by Nissan, the value Nissan presents to the customers, this is also improving. But as you pointed out, it is true that our overall sales volume has been on a downward trend. So therefore, the management team and the executives need to, well, perhaps was slightly optimistic perhaps up until now in terms of how we view the situation. So we are now internally redirecting. We're now changing our gears, and also we are going to reduce. We are going to reduce the expenses in North America without any taboo whatsoever. I mentioned about the plan to be announced in May. Naturally, as far as the substance is concerned, we're already deliberating on the substance of those plans. And as required, we would like to have forums where we'll be able to explain those information, inclusive of our customers and also to our shareholders. We want to make sure the customers and shareholders will be able to have a sense of comfort about the direction that we are pursuing as a company.
それでは
We would like to move on to the next shareholder. Please give us a question. Please give us your number of attendance. Yes, attendance number is 1503. My name is Hota. For close to 20 years, I have been holding shares of Nissan. And now, employees who are here, there are some things that I would like to tell the employees who are here with us today. In the past, after the AGSM, we used to have a reception party for the shareholders. When Mr. Gong arrived, Mr. Gong was very popular. He was crowded. Around him, there was a crowd, 20, 30 people. And CEO at the time was Mr. Shiga. And I approached Shiga-san, and I was able to speak to him immediately. At the time, I had a Nissan Cube Cubic, and fuel efficiency of Cube was very poor. We only drove 7 kilometers or 8 kilometers. That's what I told Shiga-san. Then Shiga-san talked to his assistant, I believe. And Shiga-san said, "Oh, what is this about?" And the assistant said, "No, the fuel economy has nothing wrong." That's what the assistant told Shiga-san. And at the time, it was like we only had 16 kilometers per liter. But when you're on the public road, it was like 7, 8 kilometers or 8 kilometers fuel economy. But this was totally ignored. I was a shareholder. I'm a user. And Nissan ignored it, practically ignored it. I didn't think this was the right way to respond. And after this happened, there was the fuel economy scandal incident. I was wondering, what was that? Frankly speaking, Nissan employees, you knew about this incident of fuel economy. You knew it, even this was revealed. And this led to the misconduct of your ex-chairman. That's what I want to tell you. You need to review what you were doing. I have 3,000 Nissan shares. Uchida-san, you only have 2,000 shares. I have more than you, Uchida-san. You only have 2,000 shares while I have 3,000 shares. I bought it at 700 yen per share. I never thought that it will fall below 700 yen. It's less than 500 yen per share today. What do you think about it? Is it better to sell it on the market or impair it? What shall I do about this, my Nissan share?
でその質問は一つです。
That's my first question. And there's another question.
もう一つ聞きたいのがです。
Another question. Last year, at the general meeting of the shareholders and also at the external shareholders meeting, I attended both of them. And the CEO was Mr. Saikawa at that time. Last year, in June, in AGSM, Yamauchi-san was a candidate for the director. And I was expecting Mr. Yamauchi to be the next CEO. I thought you agree, don't you, shareholders? Well, however, in reality, Uchida-san, you are the one who assumed CEO position. I never knew about you. I mean, I've never heard of about you. And after all this hustle and commotion, and I knew that there were several EVPs, executive vice presidents. Uchida-san, you were not even an EVP or executive vice president. And what are these EVPs? Aren't they top management? Why don't they become a directors? It's not transparent in the eyes of the shareholders. That's what I want to tell you. In reality, Jun Seki, he left the company before reaching this date. I mean, this is really not responsible. Irresponsible. It's irresponsible. Can you lead the global auto industry with that kind of mindset? This is my second question. Last year, in an extraordinary shareholders meeting, Uchida-san, you weren't nominated as directors, and I was warned that is why you have the extraordinary shareholders meeting today. Last year, if Yamauchi-san would have assumed the CEO, we never had this meeting today in the first place. And what people often say, that when there's you have to spend a lot of money when there's an election in a political arena. How much did you spend the money on the EGSM that took place last year in February? And today, how much are you going to spend money on this shareholders meeting? What's your budget for this EGSM today? These are my questions. Thank you.
はい。まず、
Yes, starting with the first question, your opinion. We are not listening to the customer's voice. If that is the case, it's a responsibility of us, a car maker. Therefore, I will make sure this will never happen. We will put ourselves in the shoes of the customers and listen carefully to the voice of the customers and make sure we respond to them in the right way. That's how I am going to steer the company. If we ever don't listen to the customer's voice, as I said in the beginning, provided the current circumstances, we want to regain trust of the customers. And if there's such a case where we don't listen to the customer's voice, top management and the employees of Nissan internally, we will share that this is the feedback given. So I will share this feedback within my organization and make sure we improve this, correct this.
今のご意見は
We will receive your opinion as a shareholders as well as a customer. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next question. Yes, as you said, in the end of the year, Jun Seki left the company. Having said that, the transformation plan which Mr. Seki was driving was in the phase of implementation. Therefore, with regards to implementation of the transformation plan, it's done under the leadership of Mr. Ashwani Gupta as well as the Regional Management Committee Chairman. At the same time, for the future, Nissan strategy, what should be our strength and be polished and developed? What should be the areas where Nissan should give up? Or in which area should we work better with Mitsubishi Motors and Renault and leverage on the alliance ability? As I have been saying, the plan is under development today, fast. So provided the current circumstances, we would like to build a recovery plan which you will be convinced, and we will be sure to make the explanation when we are ready. Needless to say, I take the declining performance of Nissan seriously. And regarding the spending, we will also address this challenge of spending as well.
今のご回答でよろしいですか
Did that answer your question? Specifically, how much are you spending for this meeting? Several tens of millions of yen? Several hundreds of millions yen? Shareholders meeting. in order to enable as many shareholders to attend the shareholders meeting, we are spending several tens of millions of yen. However, with the attendance of the shareholders, we, the top management, and Nissan Motors' directionality should be presented. And to this end, this shareholders meeting is an important forum. That's all. Thank you very much. So make sure you make a right selection of the people. Make sure you select right people. Thank you. Thank you very much. We would like to move on to the next question.
最初に出席番号
May we have your attendance number, please? Thank you.
出席
Attendance number 3001. 3001. As for myself, I would like to present one request to you. And also based on company law, I would like to present a shareholder proposal. In other words, I would like to present a motion based on the company law as a shareholder. So let me start with my request to you. The chairman of the board of directors, Mr. Kimura, may we ask Kimura-san to respond to this question? You are the chairman of the board. Mr. Kimura, you are not yet appointed as a board member. So I think it's appropriate that the chairman, Chair Kimura of the board of directors, respond to my request. So this is my request. The series of suspicions about Mr. Gon. I understand that with regard, you carried out internal investigation inside your company. Now, the outline of the internal investigation, I hope that you will disclose that. Disclose the outline of the internal investigation. So this is my request, and I hope that the board will give this matter consideration. So will the board be willing to address this matter at the board? That is my request to you. Now, as far as this request is concerned, let me share with you why I'm presenting these requests. This request, rather. In the past, there was a power struggle, very intense power struggle inside Nissan Motor in the past, and that was the driver which actually brought the company to the brink of bankruptcy, of a failure, rather. This is a well-known episode, so I'm sure that you will not reject that such a power struggle did take place in the past. And also, Mr. Gon is subject to various deep and significant suspicions. However, he has spoken that he was trapped into this power struggle. The misconduct of Mr. Gon, I'm sure, will be up to the decision to be made by the court. But the backdrop of this whole uproar over Mr. Gon, was it a power struggle inside the organization? Was that the case? If that is the case, that is a significant problem because this is the remnants of the past. Now, as far as Nissan Motor is concerned, I'm sure you will not admit to this argument. I'm sure you will deny that such a thing took place. But if you talk to people outside Nissan Motors, from an outside party rather, from the perspective of an outside party, as Mr. Gon spoke, maybe there was indeed an internal power struggle. And based on that assumption, many people actually assess the situation pertaining to Nissan. So so as one shareholder of the company, even if the company may reject this notion, I think I also believe that, as Mr. Gon mentioned, there was probably some struggle internally. That is my impression. And the reason is because various events seem to be very unnatural. For example, after Mr. Gon was appointed to the company, there was a document pertaining to the compensation of the executives. And at that time, the then president seal was on that document. And I think this is I think that you have admitted to this. And the then president who is criticizing Mr. Gon, the then CEO, he that person himself is also suspect of receiving overpayment. Shareholder, Mr. Shareholder, we have allocated 3 minutes each to the shareholders. So if you have already exceeded 3 minutes, so please, could we ask you to ask 2 concise questions, please? Thank you. I think it is unnatural. So the executive compensation. And the then president CEO said he was unaware of this. But then, with regard to the internal investigation pertaining to Mr. Gon, you looked into the compensation of executives, and yet you were not able to identify this fact pertaining to the then CEO. That is very unnatural.
こちらの方
So, power struggle. If this were to continue going forward, then it's not just the recent downturn in the performance. I think going forward, there's likely the performance will continue to be on a downward trend. So as a shareholder, I'm very, very concerned. So please alleviate this anxiety. Please share and disclose the outline of the internal investigation. That is my request. And by disclosing the outline of your internal investigation, then if you're going to reject that there was indeed such a power struggle, then that will come to light. And if there was such a struggle internally, then by disclosing that outline, you'll be able to again break from the hold of this struggle. I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you. And with regard to my motion, oh, my apology. Could I ask you to respond to my request one by one in this order? First of all, with regard to your request, with regard to the internal investigation, please take a look at the press release that was announced back in September 2019. As far as the details are concerned, I do apologize, but because the criminal procedure is still ongoing, I'm afraid we have to refrain from disclosing that the substance of the internal investigation. That is my response to your first question. I was asking my question to Mr. Kimura, who is the chair of the board of directors. Mr. Kimura. And the other point was about Saikawa-san. I think this is a substance that came out from the article in the journal called Shukan Bunshun. What I can say is that there is no such power struggle whatsoever. There is no such struggle in the prevailing circumstances of the company at this moment. So therefore, assessment of the case so far, we'll continue to take legal proceedings with regard to the misconduct made by the former chairman. And as far as this matter is concerned, this is all I can share with you at this juncture.
木村議長
So you're going to reject Mr. Kimura responding to the question. Okay, then let me present my motion to you. So at the extraordinary session of the shareholders meeting, election of 4 directors, you ask that all these 4 directors be approved at once. So Mr. Uchida, as the President CEO, and Mr. Ashwani Gupta, and Mr. Pierre Florio, and Mr. Hiroki Sakamoto. So election of these 4 gentlemen. You have presented this as one by one, not just not lump sum, but please one by one. Not all 4 at the same time. That's not necessary. I think they should be approved one by one instead of 4 at all at the same time. So I think resolution should be for each director, candidate. And the reason are as follows. So the board of directors at Nissan Motors. 11 directors were chosen at the previous AGSM. It was increased from 8 to 11, so addition of 3 more directors. And there was resignation. So there's a shortfall of 3, I understand. But now you're asking the 4 director candidates be approved in this one single motion. So, in terms of the organization of the board of directors, well, the executive officer and the board, I think in the past, they served the same function. So in essence, all people are at the board. Do you really need to increase that many officers? So again, I think each director candidate should be scrutinized one by one. And so, before this motion is addressed, are you going to ask? I would like to ask whether you would be willing to accede to my request that we take the resolution vote one by one. Thank you very much. From the shareholder, with regard to the election of the candidates, they should be adopted not all together, but one by one. With regard to the motion of the shareholder, if you're in agreement, please clap. Please applause. Please give it applause if you agree with the shareholder's motion. The shareholder's motion, there is no majority of people who support this, so therefore we'd like to go back to the proceedings of the extraordinary session of the shareholders meeting.
次の株主
Okay, next person, please give us a question. Would you present your attendance number? Attendance number 1012 or 1712. As one of the fans of Nissan, I am an employee of a mid-sized company who was there at AGSM. My friend works at Nissan Foundation, and there was a incident, a par harassment to disagree or deny the labor union's efforts, and there is a conflict. Global compact that Nissan signs in. From this standpoint, I asked ex-CEO Saikawa-san about this, and Saikawa-san said within his responsibility, he will respond to this. This labor dispute, this Central Labor Conference will take place to agree on, to come to a settlement. This labor dispute will have an impact on global Nissan. Please assume the responsibility to resolve this labor dispute at Nissan Foundation. Thank you. That's all from me.
財団の件に
With regards to Nissan Foundation, at the Labor Management Conference, the contemplation or discussions is underway to come to an agreement. So we, Nissan, who is not directly involved in this, will not be able to make any comment. And Nissan has defined the rule about the par harassment in the Global UN Compact, and we are trying to prevent any par harassment within the organization. Okay, next person, please. Please state your attendance number. 2201 is my attendance number. Let me talk about forced labor in South Korea. South Korea is making a ruling to ask Japan to pay the penalty. And I heard this from the congressman in this municipality, and Mitani-san. Mitani says that we should never pay this penalty, which is enforced by South Korea. And Nissan, how are you going to react to this event? In the basic agreement with South Korea and Japan, I thought that all the compensation has been done, and all the Japanese companies built plants in South Korea and has been contributing to the economy of South Korea. And despite these circumstances, South Korea breached the trust between the two nations, and you should never pay this penalty. If there's any such issue, please consult with the national government of Japan or talk to the congressman. What's your policy? Oh, that's my first question. And the second question, Wuhan, there was an outbreak of novel coronavirus starting from Wuhan, and WHO, Mr. Xi Jinping, President Xi Jinping of China, said that he is going to contain this outbreak. But now it's worldwide outbreak, and Japan is affected by this outbreak with such sloppy management. In the country where they can only make such sloppy management, you have a plant in China, and I'm worried whether you can ensure quality performance in such a country. So you should not keep production sites in China because it's very risky thinking about the sloppy management. TPP 11 countries like Malaysia or Singapore, maybe it's difficult, but how about Vietnam or Mexico? How about relocating the production sites to these countries? It will facilitate the quality assurance and will be the right way to maintain the production footprint. What's your policy on this subject?
はい、まず一問
Thank you very much. With regard to your first question about this situation in Korea, this is an issue between the two national governments, and we're not in a position to comment on this matter. Please understand.
の
And the second question, which is about China, with regards to the epidemic, including the recovery of production, we are taking necessary action. And you suggested not to have the plant in China, but China market is one of the important markets within the global auto industry. So we will be considering appropriate production footprint going forward, not only quality performance, but including the incidents like the outbreak of coronavirus. We will make sure we are free from the impact of these factors and make sure we have the stronghold in China. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next shareholder. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question. Thank you very much. Attendance number 1254. 1254. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. I have a question about sales performance, sales as a whole. I have been hearing that you are producing losses, and this is caused by slow sales. And the reason for the slow sales is aging portfolio. Aging portfolio. You have older lineup compared to the competition. In order to rejuvenate your lineup, you are going to introduce a series of new products, I understand. On the 25th of February, you are going to unveil the new Rooks. This is one representative example. By introducing new models, you are going to rejuvenate the lineup, and this is a great decision. But at the same time, the lineup, you need to enrich lineup. You need to have a right offer for the markets. For example, looking at the recent events, Cube, Nissan Cube, and if you look at Japanese market, we have Juke, but Juke is terminated. That's what I heard. And just as the person earlier said, Cubic has been terminated. So I have to say that you are overly reducing your lineup. What's your thought on this subject? That's the first one. And the second question. This time, between February and March, competitors will be introducing a competitor to Note proactively. So competitors are undergoing full model change and they will be on an offensive. And on the contrary, Note is a very old car. And in addition to this, until 2019, for 3 years in a row, it was a number one in compact segment in terms of sales. So Nissan Note is becoming a good icon or showcase for Nissan. And Nissan Note is a number one in compact segment. And is there any means to keep this number one position with Nissan Note? This is the second part of my question. Thank you.
まず一つ目の
Starting with the first question. With regards to age of our portfolio, after the second half of next fiscal year onwards, things will be much better. Therefore, as a result, our competitiveness will rise. It's not only about Japan. Around the world, we are rejuvenating the lineup and increasing the competitive edge and appropriate lineup for the Japan market. With regards to this subject, going forward, as I presented earlier, EV, SUVs, and new models will be introduced for the future mobility. We are going to make breakthroughs in the market. And these efforts will start here from Japan. Unfortunately, in the past, frankly speaking, we were slow introducing new models in this Japanese market. But next year onwards, we are going to take actions. So here, please count on Nissan on this subject. And the second question, with regards to Nissan Note, competitors to Nissan Note, how are we going to advance with Nissan Note? For this question, I would like to ask Ms. Asako Hoshino, who is in charge of sales and marketing, to give you an answer. Thank you. Hoshino-san, the floor is yours.
はい。
Yes, I am in charge of Japan's sales. My name is Asako Hoshino. Thank you for your question. With regards to Nissan Note, as you said, competitors are introducing new models one after another. And in order to respond to this, we are taking action. Having said that, Nissan Note e-Power, it's a powertrain. This e-Power version of Nissan Note or engine, this is based on electrification technologies. This is the result of 10 years of history of Nissan Leaf, which only Nissan can develop. And customers really appreciate this e-Power system. And thanks to this e-Power, for 3 years in a row, Nissan Note has been the #1 model in the compact segment. And the attractiveness of this e-Power system in comparison with the new competitors, our e-Power attractiveness is better. Having said that, as you said, Nissan Note is old in terms of age, so new upgraded e-Power equipped Note, upgraded Note e-Power should be considered soon. So it's with regards to the future product lineup, I cannot make any comment at this juncture, but we are taking actions to respond to the competition. You can count on Nissan. Thank you very much.
細田さんありがとうございました。
Hoshino-san, thank you very much. Oh, there's another thing that I would like to add. Nissan's users, Nissan's customers. First, Nissan customers are watching how Nissan can recover in Japan. That's what the customers are watching with heart as well as harshness. And we want to showcase the technology excellence of Nissan. That's what we need to demonstrate, and this is an important challenge. World-first technologies and products will first be delivered in the Japan market. And we have business partners who will help us do this. So strength of Nissan lies in products and technologies, and we have dealers who are delivering these items to the customers. With their support, as new Nissan become visible in the Japan market, we will work hard to make it happen. You can count on Nissan.
それでは次の
Next question. Attendance number 3181, correction, 3181. Two questions. My first question to Saikawa-san. So, Mr. Saikawa, there was inflation, if you will, inflated executive compensation, and at the end of this meeting, you will be resigning. Now, when Mr. Gon was dismissed at the AGM at that time, Mr. Saikawa, you were severely criticized Gon-san. But now, Mr. Saikawa-san, you are forced to resign at the secondary session of the shareholders meeting. I know that this will be the final opportunity for you to speak to the shareholders. Saikawa-san, please share with us your thoughts as you leave the company. And also, the previous questioner asked about the fact that Saikawa-san should actually should refrain from accepting severance pay. I agree. So there was no response with regard to the previous question. So Saikawa-san, would you like to respond to my question? Are you going to abandon acceptance of the severance pay? And also, other point. A question about the executive team. After Mr. Gon left, I think there is I think there was a sense of turbulence or confusion among the executive team, and that has not yet stabilized. Of course, putting Saikawa-san's incident aside, Mr. Seki resigned from Vice COO only 1 month after his appointment. So maybe there's the level of communication among the top leadership is probably very weak. To be quite candid with you, and sorry to cite to your competition, but if you compare yourself to a company like Toyota, more than quality of your product, the quality of management, there is a significant gap between Toyota and Nissan. Safety and security is utmost. No matter how good a quality product you may produce, no one wants to buy from a company with so much confusion and turmoil within the top team. So people, and I feel sorry for the employees who are working so hard on the ground. So how do you intend to break free from this turmoil in terms of the management? Because this is going to really undermine your brand value. So how do you intend to improve your brand image? I would appreciate comments from the new CEO, Mr. Uchida, and also Mr. Kimura, the chairman of the board of directors meeting. So those are my questions. Thank you. Thank you. You asked that Mr. Saikawa respond. Allow me, I think it's appropriate for myself to respond to that question. So allow me to respond on behalf of Saikawa-san. So with regard to, is there any moral responsibility on the part of Mr. Saikawa in terms of accepting SAR in an inappropriate fashion? As reporting notes, Mr. Kelly and the members of the Secretary Office came up with excessive conversation. However, he was unaware of this, and it was only after investigation by the third party that this came to light. It is not illegal. However, this went against the code of conduct internally. So therefore, after investigation was over, he agreed to voluntarily repay, and also inclusive of the moral responsibility in terms of accountability after these channels. Actually, he had this matter be discussed at the board of directors, and he took responsibility for causing confusion. And at the board of directors meeting in September last year, he resigned from the CEO. He also resigned from the representative director. So he took his responsibility in that manner. With regard to your second question, so the confusion and turmoil in the management team, and also in terms of the resignation of Mr. Seki last year, these are facts. These are facts that are taking place. But we now have a new structure that we are proposing, which is headed by myself and all the people who are on the podium today, all the members of the EC, among the top leadership. What we have done is as follows. It's important that the management team and the employees have a much transparent communication, and we have indeed embarked on this procedure. To be quite candid, internally within Nissan Motor Company, I think there was a corporate culture that various ideas that were put forward to the senior leaders were very only favorable to them. Actually, now with the sense of transparency, we're now also presenting risks to the top. And we have taken this structure from December, and the management team is now working in a united manner with the employees, so that we can restore and regain trust toward the Nissan. And we are now involved in this very meticulous deliberation. It may seem to be time-consuming, and I know that from the shareholders' perspective that this might be a time-consuming process. It might be perceived as being a time-consuming process. However, it's important that we want to be ahead of the curve. We have that strength. We want to be able to leverage that strength, and we want to make sure that we can create visible outcome, create visible change, so that this message will be understood by our customers. So the team is united in that manner. So I can assure you, the image of Nissan's brand, with regard to the brand image of Nissan, if you could be patient a little while longer, but on a day-to-day basis, you'll be able to sense that we are changing, and that is the path that we'd like to pursue. That is all. Thank you.
それでは
Now, let me move on to the next shareholder. Your question, please. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question. Attendance number 1301. Nissan cars Since I was a child, my parents were using Nissan cars, whether it's Nissan Serena, Cube, or Note. And I went to many places and I have good memory with Nissan car. But with these incidents and scandals, whenever I get into Nissan car, I'm reminded about Mr. Gon and the internal conflict in the top management. So the Nissan cars remind me of these negative factors. And the other day, you are claiming damages on Mr. Gon for 100 million, 10 billion yen. I mean, no matter how much you stick to this problem, I mean, you can never get back the money. It will be meaningless to hold him responsible. I mean, you should forget about Mr. Gon. Put a period to this and just concentrate on restoring your brand power. How are you going to deal with Mr. Gong going forward? And how are you going to restore the brand image of Nissan? These are my questions. Thank you very much.
ゴン氏の
With regards to Mr. Gon, as we have done, we are claiming damages that are incurred through misconduct. In order to recover the damage as much as possible is part of the responsibility of the company toward the shareholders. But Mr. Gon's matter is not what we are sticking for. We are just ensuring consistent action on Mr. Gon's matter. And with regards to the damage of Nissan brand, as we focus on recovering the performance of the company, we are also polishing Nissan's strength, whether it's in technology or the social responsibility, CSR efforts. But lately, because of the media reports, what we are doing on these fronts are not visible in your eyes. So as I said, the raison d'etre of Nissan, or corporate purpose, corporate value, in order for the customers to feel them, I will personally be involved together with the top management around the table to work hard to communicate the corporate value so that you can really feel it. By doing so, with the support of the dealership, we will make sure that the customers take pride in being associated with Nissan. This is what I want to do first. Nissan is not fulfilling its potential. When I assumed the position, I said this. But the current circumstances do not help the shareholders to. I understand the shareholders do not accept the current circumstance of Nissan. So I want to make sure you, shareholders and the customers, be proud once again of being associated with Nissan, and I am resolved to make this happen. I would like to ask for your kind understanding. And we would like to deliver positive messages to the market, and that's what you can count on.
それでは
Moving on to the next shareholder. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question. Thank you. 1701. My name is Tamura. Last year, I was at the extraordinary shareholders meeting. I'm from Hiroshima, by the way. And today, I heard that Saikawa-san is stepping down. So last year, in the extraordinary shareholders, I rooted for Mr. Saikawa, but he is stepping down. And now, Mr. Uchida is assuming CEO position, and Seki-san resigned. As someone earlier said, Seki-san, on the 1st of December, he assumed his position. In 2 or 3 weeks, he left the company. Who was the chair of nomination committee? Kimura-san, was it? Who was the chairman of the nomination committee? Are you hearing me? Okay. Nomination committee considered on the next CEO. And Seki-san was nominated as a vice CEO or something like that. In just 2 or 3 weeks, he left and went to NIDA Corporation. I want to hear the reason for his departure. I mean, people have a doubt on this. Sakamoto-san, come on. I never saw you. I don't you see the nameplate, but you are the external director of Mitsubishi Motors, and Mitsubishi Motors is not doing a good job. And now, Sakamoto-san, you are now applying for the candidate for the board of directors. You are part of external director at Mitsubishi Motors, and Masuko-san, he is not doing a good job at all. Uchida-san, what's the reason here? Seki-san, maybe Seki-san disagreed with your opinion. That's a rumor that I'm hearing. Why did Seki-san leave? If Kimura-san is the chair of nomination committee, you should have consulted Kimura-san. You should disclose the contents. You shouldn't just superficially say that you're going to work hard, because Nissan dealership in Hiroshima is really vacant. There's no customers. Showroom traffic is poor. You said that you visited all the Nissan sites around the world, but Nissan dealers in Hiroshima, there's no showroom traffic at all over there. As someone said earlier, top management quality is the problem here. Ihara-san, were you? The female director. Mr. Gon hired you. That's what I understand. And you are part of the nomination committee, and Seki-san has been working for long years in Nissan, and suddenly Mr. Uchida became a CEO, even if he was not an EVP, and that is why Mr. Seki resigned. Taikawa-san, don't you think so? Because you were there. That's why Mr. Gon was dismissed. Just because of 40 million yen of overpayment, you shouldn't have stepped down. Don't you think so? First off, Seki-san. On the 1st of December, Seki-san assumed the vice CEO position, and he didn't consult with the chair of the nomination committee before leaving this company? That's my first question.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you for your question. Starting with the departure of Mr. Seki. Yes. In the end of last year, I was personally contacted by Mr. Seki, and Mr. Seki asked to leave the company because of personal reason. What is the personal reason here? That's what I want to know. Was there any disagreement or differences in opinion about making Nissan better between Mr. Seki and myself? I don't think so. Is that so? He says. This is very definite. But you were in a lower position than Mr. Seki, so that is why Mr. Seki was upset and he left. The chair of the nomination committee didn't think about it. Kimura-san, were you the chairman of the nomination committee? That's the problem of the quality of management that someone earlier was talking about. Executive officers' selection process will be described by Toyota-san, who is chairing nomination committee. Where is Toyota-san? I don't see a nameplate, so I don't know who is who. Put a nameplate on the table so that people know who you are. We don't know who you are because Mr. Snar, I know your face, so it's okay. But the rest of the Indian person over there and someone from Renault over there, who are they?
よろしいでしょうか。
May I, sir? Hey, yeah, okay, on top of this. Earlier, 10 billion yen damages. You claim damages to the Tokyo District Court about Mr. Gon's. And as you said, CEO, 10 billion of Mr. Gon. The person earlier said you should give up on 10 billion, but you have to get it back, please. You have to get back the 10 billion damages. In Versailles, she celebrated the wedding and he spent 8 billion yen. Come on, Mr. Snar, Renault, get it back. Renault got back the money for the Versailles wedding ceremony between Carol and Mr. Gon. You got the money. You got that money back from Mr. Gon, I believe. Didn't you? Mr. Uchida. Just like the shareholder earlier, you shouldn't give up on the damages. You should get it back. That's a tremendous amount of money. You should get it back. Saikos has 40 million. You should allow that to go. It's peanuts. And Lebanon. What is Lebanon saying here? Are you talking to the government to do something about Lebanon? Are you going to get back the Lebanese mansion? You should disclose to the shareholders and say that you're going to get back the property in Lebanon from Mr. Gon. Mr. Snar, Renault got back money from Mr. Gon for the wedding ceremony expenditure. Renault got it back, didn't you? Shut up. Shut up.
ルノいいですか？
May I continue? Renault, you increased 2 people from Renault. And you have more directors from Renault compared to Nissan's, then Renault will have a more say. Whether it's you talk about alliance, but Renault has more say. Renault isn't red, come on.
さん
Uchida-san, yes. No dividend for the rest of the year. You should apologize. You should all stand up and apologize because you're not paying dividend. Share price is less than 400 yen, and you say you're working hard. You are working hard. Come on. In the next AGSM in June, if the share price is falling short of 500 yen, you should assume the consequences and assume the responsibility.
ご意見、ごもっと
I understand your opinion. Going forward, when there's any impact on Nissan performance, it will be under my responsibility, and it's the top management's responsibility. We will make sure we will assume the responsibility. Yes, you're right. Saikawa-san, you should work hard even after leaving the company. You can go to a good company like Mr. Seiki.
はい、今おっしゃっていただいた件に関しては、
With regards to the subject that you raised, we take it with the utmost seriousness. So we will make sure that we steer the company in the effective way so that it's visible in the eyes of yours. I will commit to this. If the circumstances remain uncertain, you can fire me immediately. You can fire me immediately. With that strong determination, I am trying to overcome the difficulties. That's what I would like you to understand. Nissan is a great company indeed. Yes, we have a lot of problems, but we will definitely make the company so that people take pride in this company once again. Everyone on this stage are working hard on this. Thank you. Good luck.
それでは次の
Next question, please, from the next shareholder, please. May I? May I?
はい、
Yes, please.
Sorry, he is not using a microphone, so I can't hear.
The interpreter is not able to hear the question. Our apologies. The interpreter is not able to hear because the speaker is speaking irregularly.
きましては
With regard to questions, please, we are taking questions based on the number of ticket numbers. And so we would appreciate your cooperation in the way in which we're carrying out our Q&A session. This is in line with the number of ticket numbers.
Other people in the audience are saying that they are disturbing the proceeding.
株主総会及び他の株主の
Shareholders, we would appreciate your silence for the sake of other shareholders. I should be grateful if, out of respect for the meeting and other shareholders, you would please be quiet. Thank you. So, your attendance number, please. 0882. Hane is my name. 0882. My first car was a Nissan. Laurel. It was Laurel. So that's why I acquired the share of Nissan. But now you're facing lackluster sales globally. The share prices are down, and you're not generating profit. I know that this is at the risk of repeating myself. The image has been worsened as a result of Mr. Carlos Ghosn's incident being addressed in the media. So how do you intend to take responsibility to the shareholders in the light of the downward trend in the share price, stock price? And also, Mr. Abe on television, I saw him speak. He mentioned that this is a matter which should have been addressed internally within Nissan. So how do you respond to Prime Minister Abe's comment that this was a matter which should have been addressed internally by Nissan? Thank you. As I have consistently stated so far, with regard to the significant reduction in dividend, the corporate responsibility, we seriously take the corporate responsibility. We believe that this is on us. And at the same time, we cannot give you immediate response at this juncture. But as far as responsibility is concerned, this will be a matter that we'll give consideration to, and this is always on our mind. And we would like to disclose that to you. Next question, please.
お願いいたします。最初に
Please state your attendance number and ask your question. Thank you for your cooperation.
出席
Attendance number 3643. 3643. I have a question about sales. It's not maybe a question, it may be an opinion, rather. And there are other questions that I would like to raise, but because other shareholders ask questions that I applauded, so it's okay. Why am I asking about sales? Because your sales are poor. Your sales are poor, so you have to boost your sales volume. Why isn't it selling well? There are many reasons behind it, I understand. Two shareholders meeting before in June at AGSM, General Shareholders Meeting, as the MC said, the MC talked about the fugitive. And when there was a shareholder who asked the first question, it says CEO is Saikawa-san. That's what this fugitive said. That was AGSM that I attended. Do you remember that scene? I think some of you do. And it was, I don't know which question it was about. I said there was a person who bought the first Nissan car and he was in a traffic accident and all the insurance were relied on the dealers. However, the response or services were very poor. This old user said the dealer services were poor. And earlier you referred to it was who was it? Hoshino-san? Am I having it correctly? Hoshino-san, I think you immediately responded to this matter, and I haven't heard what happened since then. And with regards to sales, after a while, after a long time, I bought a Nissan car. After a long time, in January I bought one, and in the beginning of this month, the car was delivered. After a long time, I said, because that's someone who was apologizing earlier. I was in a non-Nissan car, and I counted on Nissan, so that is why I bought one. And at the dealership, I had a bad experience, which convinced me why the sales are poor. Because the fugitive said that CEO is Saikawa-san, and it has been 2 years since that AGSM, so nothing happened at the dealership, at least. So I'm not expecting you to give an answer because it'll be a waste of time. So attendance number will give you my address and the contact number. So the responsible person in charge of sales, please send me your business card with your home email address. Then I will contact you and provide the details. And from the beginning, online, I heard that not only Nissan stakeholders, but I believe competitors are watching this video streaming or live streaming. So as an owner of Nissan shares, I'm very hesitant to say all the details. So after this meeting is over, please contact me with your business card. Then I will get into the specifics then. That's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your opinion, and thank you for buying a Nissan car. I really appreciate it. At the later date, Nissan will take care of the matter. Now, we would like to move on to the next shareholder.
最初に
May we have your attendance number, please? Thank you. Attendance number 1799. For over several decades, I have been a shareholder of Nissan. And I was looking forward to your dividend. But considering in the light of the current performances, you're not able to dividend at this juncture, and my wife is very sad. Now, in the past, I was actually on a podium like you in the past when I was working. So, Uchida-san and all these members, I know where you're coming from. I know how you feel. At the same time, though, when you want to change the company, the most important thing is not so much what you do with the shareholders. You have to communicate more to your employees. That is more critical. Around 2000, when Mr. Carlos Ghosn came to Japan, I was excited. I thought, oh, this man can change this company. That's what I thought back then. His plan, the plan was there, and he was a great communicator. So now, Uchida-san, you have to speak in words that can be delivered to your employee base. So now my question. In order to I would like to make a proposal so that you can mobilize and motivate your employee base. You talked about Carlos Ghosn. I have seen news articles in Asahi Shimbun. They have a special article, and in September, I know that you had an internal investigation. Based on the internal investigation, Greg Kelly and Carlos Ghosn, they caused 35 billion lost opportunity for the company. And I understand that just the other day you filed a suit. You filed a civil suit. But the damages you're seeking is 10 billion for Mr. Carlos Ghosn. So 35 billion versus 10 billion. There's a gap. Why the gap? And also, that lost profit, that should be utilized to mobilize your employee base. So 35 billion loss caused by these two gentlemen. These are corporate expenses. So out of the company loss, how much of the loss is attributable to the employee base and how much attributable to the company per se? So based on that, I have this proposal and suggestion. If the current situation were to continue, then I believe employees will be exposed to external pressure and also criticisms by Carlos Ghosn and also silent shareholders and also silent employees. They're going to be pressurized. They're going to be inward-looking, and Japan is now being ridiculed as a result. So I think shareholders should actually pay a bounty to bring back Carlos Ghosn. Why not pay 1.5 billion? Why not post 1.5 billion bounty on the head of Carlos Ghosn? It's the same as his bail. So I'm being cynical. So 1.5 billion bounty. And also the lost economic opportunity and profit for the shareholders. When you consider that amount, it's pittance. So 1.5 billion lost opportunity. If that is spent in Lebanon, then we can bring back Mr. Carlos Ghosn to Japan. So that asset, we'll be able to recoup that asset. Even if you were victorious in civil suit, it doesn't mean anything. The shareholders want actual benefit. So I know that there is a red notice on Mr. Carlos Ghosn, and at the maximum bounty is 500 million. Next is 100 million. So 1.5 billion. If you spend that much money in Lebanon, someone can bring back Mr. Carlos Ghosn back to Japan. What are your thoughts?
はい。
First of all, you referred to the need for message internally. As I mentioned earlier, yes, 3 things. I mentioned the 3 things at the end of my presentation. So changing the mentality of the company. It's important that we revisit Nissan way. And also at the same time, with regard to the employees, it's important that I project and communicate about what Nissan is going to be in the future. So therefore, yes, regaining trust internally inside the company, and also so that the employees can be more forward-looking. Unless we motivate them, we cannot communicate externally. So I would like to pursue efforts on all these fronts. And also, next point, you asked about the total scale of the loss as far as the actual loss is concerned. I would like to ask Nagai-san, who is the head of the audit committee, to respond to that question. Nagai-san. Thank you. My name is Nagai, the head of audit committee. Thank you for your question. As you asked, it is true that at the press conference after the internal investigation was over in September, the overall loss was 35 billion yen loss. Yes, that is what we mentioned during the press conference. And also, on February 12th, with regard to the misconduct by Mr. Ghosn, we filed a civil suit to Yokohama District Court, and that amount was 10 billion. So you asked about the gap between the two. So among the 35 billion, 15 billion relates to the total amount that Mr. Ghosn actually took improperly or attempted to take. So that amount is not yet paid. So therefore, that is not an actual loss. So what about the remaining 15 billion? As the first step, we're suing for compensation of some of those damages. So we have filed a civil suit for that purpose. And moreover, and this is not yet announced, but further losses may be added in the form of levies paid to the Financial Service Agency or fines that could be imposed in the course of legal action. That is a possibility. And also, any cost of any settlement of legal cases in overseas courts. So that is the second phase. So that additional compensation suit may be pursued. As far as we're concerned, the criminal procedure is suspended at this juncture. However, with regard to the series of misconduct by Mr. Gong, we cannot condone this. This cannot be overlooked. So therefore, we will strictly address this matter. And also, we will make maximum efforts in order to claim damages and to seek redress. This, I believe, is in response to the expectation of the shareholders. I would appreciate your kind cooperation and understanding.
長井さん、ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Nagai-san. Thank you. Next question, please.
ご質問をお願いいたします。
Yes. Please state your attendance number and ask your question. 3375 is my attendance number. My question is about U.S. and China markets. That was my intention, but I would like to ask, there was an earlier question which was about U.S., so let me focus on South Korea rather. Before that, China, the current status, because of epidemic in Wuhan, the suspension of plant. What's the current status of the production today in Wuhan? Nissan, last year, you sold 1.56 million units, and you plan to sell 1.7 million yen. So you are producing more than 100,000 units per month. That was your initial expectation, but now you suspend the operation of production. In 1 month, more than 100,000 units are no longer in production, and you will lose as much revenue. So this will have a big impact on the bottom line. Therefore, Nissan's current status in China with regards to production, and if possible, when are you going to resume the operation? It may be uncertain. I have a doubt because Dalian and Guangzhou, the locations which are far from the center of epidemic, were closed down. Why? And U.S. incentives. I had a question about U.S. incentives, talking about South Korea. In summer, if I understand, there was a Japanese product boycott and only 58 Nissan branded cars sold, only 58 units in South Korea. In such a market, you have a subsidiary? And what's the meaning of working continuously? Because you are producing a lot of losses, if I understand correctly. It would have been a significant loss in South Korea. You don't have such luxury financing-wise. And as someone said earlier, because of the forced labor, basically, Nissan brand is some of the war criminal, and you are harassed by South Korea. Qashqai issue is part of harassment by South Korea government. So South Korean market, well, China market is different. You need to locally produce and locally market. It's one of the key markets. But South Korea, you should withdraw from this kind of market as soon as possible.
ご意見ありがとう。
Thank you for your opinion, sir. With regards to the production status or resumption of the production in China, Dongfeng Nissan is in Huazhou. We have a Huazhou plant in Guangzhou. From the 17th of February, we resumed operation. For the rest of the plants, Dalian plant, as you said, will start from 21st, and Shenyang will be resuming after 24th or onwards. At least that's our plan. Circumstances are changing daily, especially logistics, including part supply, are the areas where we see the impact of the epidemic. Therefore, the impact on the volume in China as of today is not clear. So I'm not ready to give you a number. But as you may know, without any holidays, because there will be an impact on the Chinese market to a certain extent. And we are also importing parts from China to Japan. So in February, we are seeing this impact as well. But with regards to the sales in Japan, we are resuming the operation in March in order to minimize the impact of the epidemic for Japan. And next question, which is about South Korea. Sales in South Korea, considering the status, what should we do? This is the question. So Korea Nissan is revising the business and enhancing the efficiency of the operation to continue. But as you indicated, which market should we concentrate on, and which market, for example, should we gain support of the partners like Mitsubishi Motors and Renault? This is the matter that we are considering by May when we announce the revised midterm plan. So when we are ready, we would like to disclose the details. Thank you.
それでは次の株主の方。
We'll go to the question by the next shareholder. May we have your attendance number, sir, please? Thank you. 3016. I have two questions. It's about the Japanese market with regard to sedan. This month, Nissan Sylphy, without any press release whatsoever, was changed. So there was a model change. And I was frustrated by this model change. To be quite candid, the Japanese market for sedan, I think, was abandoned. That was my impression. You've abandoned Japanese market for the sedan. Toward the second half of the previous year, Toyota Corolla became number one in terms of sales. To be quite candid, I was very, very upset by that. Why was I frustrated and upset? And well, Corolla has always been a very popular model, so I understand the brisk sales. But there's demand in the Japanese market for Corolla. That is why there's a raison d'être for Corolla in the Japanese market. But the name of Sylphy, why not give that to China? Sentra, that exceeds to the demand for sedan in the North American market, and maybe demand for sedan in the Chinese market could be Sylphy. So the demand, there's demand for Bluebird in the Japanese market, for example. So going forward, when you launch new sedan, why not revert to the name of Bluebird? And why not recover the 3S? Why not revive the 3S? Last year, when the new Versa was launched, and I thought that was a model where there was demand out there for the Japanese market, because Versa should actually be called Sunny. It should be Sunny. New Altima should be Lauren. So, Ms. Hoshino-san and Mr. Uchida, I would appreciate your views. And that's why I wanted to take part in this meeting. Oh, sorry, just one more thing, if I may. So, new Juke. Why only Europe? There should be Juke in the Japanese market. There's a place for Juke in the Japanese market. You have suspended production, but there is absolutely demand for this model in the Japanese market. So what is the marketing? What are you doing about marketing here in Japan? I just don't know what you're doing.
はい。ございます。
Thank you for your opinion, sir. Depending on the circumstance of the key market, we are revising the lineup that cater to the needs. As you indicated, the suggestion about the naming within the organization, we are going to organize a naming committee to come up with the naming which is fit with the Nissan brand and be accepted by the customers. Thank you for your opinions. We will look into them. And with regards to sedan market in Japan, I would like to ask Hoshino-san to give you an answer. Hoshino-san, please go ahead. Yes. Thank you. I'm in charge of Japan. Thank you for your question. Regarding sedan, Sylphy, because of regulatory reasons, because the regulations are growing stringent, rather than spending investment to renew it, it was better to introduce a new Sylphy. So we thought that it was better to re-engineer the car for Japan market. So we ended the production for now. I apologize for this, but I will promise you to make you say wow about the new Nissan Sylphy or a new sedan. That's what I would like to promise you. That's the direction that we are considering and we are seriously considering about the next generation Sylphy. With regards to sedan, we have Skyline, which is on beyond the Sylphy level. Last year, the world first ProPilot, which enables a hands-free operation on the given path, which is navigated, which will take you to the exit, was applied on the new Skyline. This excellent autonomous driving technology was applied, and this is built into Chigi plant. And we are selling much more than what we initially expected in the plan. And it was awarded with the Car of the Year, no, Technology of the Year, correction. And this is a car that deserves the historical name of Skyline. So world first hands-free autonomous driving technology, ProPilot 2.0. I would like to recommend this technology to all of you. Going forward, you indicated you had a doubt about the marketing in Japan, but I will make sure that all the cars that Nissan introduces can be a number one in this category. That's our goal. Nissan Note, equipped with e-Power, became a number one. Serena remains in number one. And Days in the height wagon segment, for a long time, we were falling short or outperformed by the competitors, other mini cars, but we beat them, and now it's number one. And Rooks, in the super height wagon segment, should be the number one, and that's what we are intending to do. You may point out some shortcomings, but we are going to introduce great cars one by one and make sure all these cars can be a number one in this segment. Hoshino-san, thank you very much. Please reinforce the Japanese operations, said the audience.
はい、それでは次の
Let me move on to the next shareholder. Please state your attendance number and ask your question. Yes, 3191. My name is Sasaki. Ex-chairman Mr. Gon, I have a question about this matter. When he was appointed leader of Nissan, he has been carrying out the restructuring to enable the V-shaped recovery. So he delivered results, and he was performance-focused, performance-based. With regards to Mr. Gon, governance was poor, I believe. And on top of this, regarding Nissan, I think compliance, you are lacking the mindset of compliance. Why do I say 2 years ago, was it? What was it? Fuel economy scandal? There was a fuel economy incident, and even at that time, if I remember correctly, Mr. Saikawa, when you were CEO, you didn't appear in the press conference. I have to say that considering all these things, what Mr. Gon had done is really bad, and there were internal reasons. I understand there was an internal dispute. And Saikawa-san, You should have known this even at the time when this misconduct was ongoing. So I believe Mr. Saikawa should be held responsible just like Mr. Gon. And you are stepping down today, but you should have resigned earlier. And as someone said many times, Nissan is claiming damages for 10 billion yen to Mr. Gon. You took a civil action. I heard it in media report. With regards to this matter, you should do it more strictly, do it more thoroughly. And if you look at the contents, probably, the media is reporting that it may be difficult to get the reimbursement from Mr. Gon. But including the attachment of the properties, what are you doing around this matter? Including attachment of properties. And because of the difficult performance of the company, you are reducing the dividend amount. Well, Mr. Gon's, the slow sales in the U.S. was caused by excessive discounts. That's what I assume was the problem. Excessive discounts to boost the volume, and he was aiming to be the number one and outpace Volkswagen at the time. And thanks to this, share price came down from 1,000 yen to 500 yen. It's a 50% decline of share price. And Uchida-san, today, in the Q&A session, you haven't given any details or specifics. Earlier, you said please wait for 1.5 more years. It's okay to wait and be patient. But I was wondering how Nissan will be. That's what you need to elaborate on. With the Chapter 11, please make sure the company does not undergo rehabilitation law or Chapter 11 because it will be troublesome for the shareholders if we do so. So please restore the dividend payment. That's all. Thank you.
はい、ありがとうございます。2番目の
What you pointed out, the second point that indicated, as I said, within the organization, we are focused on what we have to do in the short term. More than we expected, the sales are declining. And sales decline is largely impacting the bottom line. So considering these circumstances, we are trying to further reduce the expenditures and fixed costs. And since January, we have been addressing this menu of spending cuts. So with regards to the details, I said I am going to announce it in May, but as we would like to be ready so that I can communicate this as soon as possible under my leadership. Regarding North America, the quality of sales per unit has been elaborated in my presentation. Nissan's right pricing, the price at which the customers are ready to pay for, that's what we would like to bring back to. That's what we are focusing on today. And these efforts are delivering results every day. And as we introduce new models in the North American market, these cars will contribute to the bottom line. So we remained focused on the right direction, but the overall sales decline will be addressed by large reduction of the fixed cost because this is necessary. As you said, the short-term performance or the profit, we are unable to recover profit unless we cut the cost, and we will thoroughly do this. That's what I have been saying. Please build popular cars that sell well. It has been 10 years since I have been the Nissan user, and before that, I was a 5-year Nissan user for 5 years. But in between, I was a Toyota user. And if you compare Toyota and Nissan, the model lineup, well, there are differences in the number of dealership, but the lineup or the number of models, as the employees said, they don't have any car to sell in the Nissan lineup, including Cube. All of them are eliminated. So Nissan employees are really whining. Dealers are really sad because they don't have any car to sell. So you need to value the employees first. Because companies are here thanks to employees. So including employee satisfaction, you need to work on it. Please, will do. Yes, thank you for your opinion. We would like to discuss on this point and work hard so that we can deliver attractive cars to the customers. Thank you.
それでは次の株主の方。
Next shareholder, please. Your question, sir. May we have your attendance number? Thank you. Thank you. 1708. As a matter of fact, last year, I'm sorry, it's not a very serious topic, but I'm a supporter for Shonan Bellmare football team. And Yokohama Marinos, I had such respect for Yokohama Marinos, a neighboring city, a neighboring team. Now, 2 years ago, both teams competed to stay in the top league. And this year, we actually won. It was in Nissan Stadium, 65,000 audience in a packed stadium at Nissan Stadium. I was able to experience a moment of joy, tremendous joy. And all the executives of Nissan team, I'm sure, you probably went to that same game. And I'm sure you were very happy. And Nissan Marinos, they made a tremendous effort. And despite all the hardship, they made such an effort. And now they won the J1 Top League Championship. So their efforts were awarded. And Nissan Motor, you are the main sponsor for this team and for Nissan. To experience a championship, if you will, in the Nissan Stadium with players that are wearing the logo. Now, actually, I recall that Saikawa-san committed to this victory. Now he's resigning. I suppose the contract is over. But now, Nissan Motor itself is not doing very well. Your cars aren't selling very well. So now I'm anxious. So Mr. Uchida, you will continue sponsorship this year, right? But what about the following year? Can you commit to continue sponsorship for Marinos 2 year onwards? And also one other point with regard to management. I know this extraordinary shareholders meeting, and I know that you're facing a very difficult situation. And I know that we're all holding CEO to be accountable. I know a lot. It's only natural. But having said that, but with regard to Mr. Saikawa, the former CEO, at that time, we were able to have some understanding about the character because he appeared in various media. But this time around, Mr. Uchida, you're just being on the end of criticism. But we're not sure what kind of person you are. You're headquartered in Yokohama, here in Japan. So, can you please communicate? Correction, as the head of Nissan that is headquartered in Yokohama, what type of aspirations and dreams would you like to communicate to Japan and to outside Japan? So can you talk about your own personal character? Why not share with us your aspirations and your visions? Thank you, that is all. Thank you so much, sir. First of all, with regard to Marinos, well, this year, Marinos, they made a tremendous effort. With regard to Marinos, as a brand, we believe that they have a tremendous advertising effect. And also for Nissan, I know that this has been effective sponsorship, in particular with regard to sports culture, for the development of sports culture, contributing to sports culture, and also in terms of contribution to the Nissan brand. We understand the importance of continuing on with the sponsorship. And the second point, you wanted to ask what kind of person I am. Well, in a nutshell, and at the risk of repeating myself, the current performance of Nissan is not something that I'm familiar with. It is not the Nissan that I know. So therefore, I hope that hope all the customers will say that Nissan is a good company. So therefore, together with the employees, we want to pursue a change so that as more customers as possible will feel that this is a good company. My experience may not be that long. You might feel that there's a shortfall, but I am totally willing, and I'd like to really improve Nissan. So there is no change in that intention. So with regard to my personal character going forward, I hope that I'll be able to communicate to you about myself going forward. So I look forward to your continued support. Thank you. Then, thank you so much, sir.
はい。それでは次の
Thank you. We would like to move on to the next shareholder. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question. 1047. Looking at the current status of Nissan, there are a lot of questions and doubts, but intentionally it's 3 minutes, limited to 2 questions, so I will be within the scope. Today, Nissan's performance is declining, but since Mr. Gon, you didn't change in one aspect, which is governance. Parent company and the rest of the general shareholders have a conflict of interest, and this conflict of interest between the parent company and the general shareholders are not resolved. So please cancel the cross-shareholding with Renault, or if the existing top management is committing to the alliance, in order to enable Nissan to benefit from more profits, you should increase your stake to 25% to the stake from 15%, and make sure Renault doesn't have a voting right. And the directors on the stage, I mean, those general shareholders, less than the majority of the directors are representing general shareholders. So from next time, please select the directors who can represent the general shareholders in June, because alliance is becoming a big cost for Nissan. That's what I'm saying this. In the third quarter, the operating margin was 0.7%. It's so low. In other words, the costs are too high compared with the revenue. So you said that you are going to make an agreement alliance, and this will slow down the decision making, and you are going to reveal the plan in May, which is 2 months down the road, which is pretty slow. So in order to expedite the efforts, make sure there are a lot of costs that you don't have any control with regards to the alliance. And between Renault and Nissan in Japan, you are competing with each other. Nissan is losing a lot of profits while Renault is boosting volume in Japan. It's a competitor for Nissan. So make sure each partner ensures independence so that Nissan can consider the capital cost on general shareholders are bearing. So how about increase the dividend to 100 yen or per year, and ROE today is reducing or declining to 0.1%, while equity worth is 5 trillion yen, so which is too big of an internal reserve that you are securing. So Uchida-san and the top management, you are very cautious about the outlook. So rather, you should it's time to increase the dividend for shareholders. So if you bring down the dividend and you let the share price go down, you shouldn't just abandon it as it is. If the share price comes down, you should have a sense of crisis that someone may acquire you. Mitsubishi Motors performance is poorer than Nissan, but they are maintaining the dividend payment because Mitsubishi Motors is owned by Mitsubishi Corporation, which has a stake of 20%, so they are considerate with Mitsubishi Corporation. So Nissan should consider other shareholders more. So from outside the organization, like Nidec Corporation is a partner who is supplying key components. It can be a business partner or purely a corporate revival fund. You should bring in the capital from outside. You are talking to parent company already, so you should have a dialogue with the general shareholders. Then it will help reveal the problems in the alliance. Uchida-san, in the meeting with Renault, you said that you are going to, your company will lead in the area where your strength lies in. But when it comes to weak areas, which is the cost of Nissan, may be abandoned. The high cost structure will be retained. That's the danger that I'm seeing. For example, European operation has been delivering losses for a long time. If you look at Honda declared to withdraw from the United Kingdom, but it seems like Nissan is abandoning the concerns that the shareholders see. If you don't have enough money, you should sell Renault shares and distribute the dividend to the shareholders. So what I mean is that you need to pay more attention to the shareholders' return and shareholders' value. In other words, the conflict, excuse me, may I interrupt, sir? 3 minutes passed already. May I?
当社はですね、
Shareholders' value is one of the top priority of business administration. And we are applying the same policy to all shareholders. Not only the major shareholder Renault, but we are also protecting the value of the shareholders, of the rest of the shareholders. That's a policy that we are retaining. And at the board of directors meeting, the independent directors account for majority of the board, and these people are operating for the interest of the shareholders. And for the alliance, with regards to the alliance, Nissan will specify the core competence of Nissan and specify the areas where we will leverage alliance assets. So we are going to utilize alliance assets to help Nissan grow so that the alliance can contribute to Nissan. What are the specific support? It's not only regional axes. It's also about the engineering area. In many directions and aspects, we intend to use the strength of the alliance for the benefit of Nissan in the midterm plan, and while we polish or hone Nissan's strength. That's what we are considering today. And by May at the latest, we would like to communicate what we have in the plan. Thank you very much. How about the capital cost? Capital cost. What's your plan? What's the capital participation policy? I couldn't hear you. What are you going to do about capital cost? Because you are ignoring capital cost. You reduce the dividend, share price declined. And if you are reducing the dividend by 90%, you should cut the executive compensation by 90%. I mean, you don't care. Shareholders are looking for benefits of holding Nissan shares. If you are conservative about the outlook, you should provide shareholders returns so that you can enhance the capital efficiency. So what's your policy about the capital cost? Yes, as I said, we are proposing not to distribute the dividend for the year end, and we take this seriously. So we, the top management, are discussing what to do, and we will specify the plan going forward. However, provided with the current performance of Nissan, we are proposing not to distribute the year-end dividend. I express my regret to all the shareholders, and dividends should not only be determined by short-term performance and cash flow. In the mid and long-term outlook, we are determining the dividend policy. So as we progress with the business plan, we are going to finance the efforts with this money. We are focusing on the operation, and based on this, we are going to determine the right dividend policy with your approval. But first, I would like to focus on performance recovery and revive the company so that as soon as possible, we are able to resume the dividend payment. And we are working hard on this point.
それでは次の株主の方、ご質問をお願いします。
We'll go on to the question by the next shareholder. May we have your attendance number, please? It is your turn, sir.
あ、
Thank you. I was actually ticket number for 3001. I'm up again. I asked the member of the secretariat and they encouraged me to take the floor, so I'm speaking in front of the microphone once again. I asked the fourth question. So, Chairman, Mr. Uchida, I think the procedure of this meeting is inappropriate, so I would like to present a motion of no confidence. So, why no confidence? Why this motion? In the course of the various questions, although the questioner has designated questions to be directed to certain directors, there is no response from the designated director, and Mr. Uchida has pursued this procedure, has pursued the proceedings in this manner. This is inappropriate. For example, with regard to the question that I addressed, I directed my question to Mr. Kimura, the chairman of the board of directors meeting. But despite that fact, there was no, even without commenting whether or not it was appropriate for Mr. Kimura to address this question, he did not allow Mr. Kimura to speak. So that is why I'm presenting this motion of no confidence. Thank you. There was a motion presented to dismiss the chairman of this extraordinary session of the meeting. So, shareholders, if you agree, please give us please applause if you are in agreement with this motion. Thank you for this. I think the majority of the shareholders did not agree to this motion. Thank you. We'd like to go back to the proceedings.
それでは
Okay, next shareholder, please. Please state your attendance number and then ask your question. Yes, attendance number 1251. Thank you for the good work. At bad time, I feel sorry for the CEO. There's one good note, a positive note. In January, I went to Denmark. In Denmark, it was very cold, and I replaced my car. And number one car was what was offered to me. What car do you think was? It was Sunny. Come on, Sunny. When I took Sunny, it was warm immediately. And this company told me this was a number one car, but the number of cars are very. I thought it was a waste because I don't see many of these cars. Okay, getting to the gist. I have been 30 years as a shareholders ombudsman. I was representing Morioka, and I have been doing it internally. And this month, on the 27th of February, there will be a ruling on Mizuho Bank, and I am working with the lawyers to attack Mr. Gon, and I will reconsider what to do about Mr. Gon. When I do that, I want, including the current CEO and top management, please take part in our actions so that we can come up with a good way to deal with Mr. Gon. By the way, this is the real subject that I want to talk about. Earlier, Mr. Uchida, you said that you are valuing people on the ground. That's the most important factor. So, my question. Note and Leaf. I bought Note and Leaf last year. Then, this year, what happened? What happened, do you think? In the next 5 years, per once, we used to pay 2,000 yen per month for the charging, but from next time, I need to pay this money. Then why do I have to buy a Nissan Leaf? It's not worthwhile if I were to pay this amount of money. And I told the dealership. Everyone opposed. And I no longer wanted my Nissan Leaf, and I wanted my money back. I mean, this is ridiculous and outrageous. I used to pay 2,000 yen per month. That was a recommendation from the dealership. That was a selling point. And now CO2 emission is becoming a big worldwide problem. So EV is an important factor. And at this time, you are billing Nissan Leaf owners to pay this much of money? You are asking us to pay for the electricity? This is outrageous. And I really yelled at the outlet manager from whom I bought the car. But this outlet manager told me that I'm heading this outlet, but Nissan motor manufacturer do not talk to me because they are of a higher ranking. And this Nissan motor headquarters are imposing the decisions that the dealership cannot follow or implement. I mean, it's printed here. See, this is how much I'm charged with if I use a EV. And can you sell EV in such a mentality? I mean, you did that in Osaka. If that's what you're doing to do, it's better to give EV to Yoshino-san. I mean, you are in difficulties. I know that. I totally understand your adversity. For 30 years, I have been the shareholders' ombudsman, so I know all these companies. But still, the people on the ground should be enabled to do their job so that people take pride in selling the car or buying a car. That's what I want you to do. Rather than involved internal conflict, you should visit the dealers and motivate each individual. Unless you can do this, you are not qualified. You look like a weak person. So, but I want you to work hard. Good luck. In the past, I mean, it was this January, by the way. Daihatsu, I was on the ship with the Daihatsu president. Daihatsu president told me that Nissan people are naive. But being naive, you will not be able to work as CEO. So good luck. So, my question. EV, charging of EV. Do you think you can sell EV with these kind of things? You're billing us with electricity charges. Thank you for your opinion. We are going to look into your opinion so that we can make use of it for further improvements. So let me examine the details. Thank you.
それでは次の
Okay, moving on to the next shareholder. Please state your attendance number and ask your question. 3087. My name is Nakagawa. Thank you for this opportunity. I love Nissan, by the way. And I have a concern, so that is why for the first time I attended this extraordinary shareholders meeting. I went to the usual annual general meeting of the shareholders in the past. But intrinsically, before beginning the session, you should do the self-introduction of the people on the stage. I think this should be the right protocol. Honestly speaking, I don't know all the names and faces of the directors. I don't know your professional history. I don't know whether you are taking your position from the government positions or do you have any privilege or specific power, what kind of role you assume within the organization, including the names. You didn't introduce these to us. It's not really a question, but if possible, could you do that in the beginning of the session? Mr. Uchida, what do you say?
ご指摘
Yes. With regards to your indication about the proceeding of the shareholders meeting and the self-introduction of the directors and executive committee members, thank you for your opinion. We would like to reflect your opinion in the future. Excuse me. I want you to introduce yourself now. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make a judgment whether we cannot be convinced whether the new top management will be ready to make the right decision for the company. So that is why I am asking you to introduce yourselves. Apologies. We are not ready to do the introduction that you're asking for, but with regards to the EC members and directors, necessary information will be explained in writing later. No. You don't have to explain. You can just ask each individual to do the self-introduction. It's simple. And we would like, please say what kind of thing, how you are going to contribute to the revival of Nissan, what kind of strength you have, and how are you going to apply your strength to revive Nissan. But I apologize to you, but because of the limited time, we would like to proceed with the session. I would like to ask for your kind understanding. If the rest of the shareholders agree, it's okay. But could you take the voting then?
それでは
Yes. There was a proposal of the motion to continue the session. Please applaud if you are in agreement with the motion.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you for the applaud. Your motion did not attract the majority of the approval. Excuse me. No matter how you look at it, the majority applauded this.
社長一人
I know that it's a tough job moderating the session. But if you're going to exert the total capacity of the company, we need to know the role and the activity to be exerted by each individual director. I think we have that right as shareholders.
大変申し訳ないんですが、
We apologize, but there was not majority support from the shareholders present today. Well, I think the earlier applause represents more than majority. That is what I heard.
ご理解のほど
I would appreciate your kind understanding. I would appreciate your kind understanding.
上根さん
I would appreciate your silence for the sake of the. I should be grateful if out of respect for the meeting, other shareholders could please be quiet. Okay, then. There could be perhaps maybe you misheard me. So could you please take the vote once again? Maybe we just misheard. So could you take the voting once again?
上根様、本株主総会及び
Mr. Shareholder, and I should be grateful if out of respect for the meeting and other shareholders, you would not take actions that would undermine the proceedings. Well, I don't intend to undermine the proceedings. I'm trying to improve the company. So what staff do you have to improve the company? I just wanted to know what the lineup is headed by the president. Is the lineup something that we can look forward to? I just want that explanation. That is my request. That's the only request I'm putting forward. Our apologies. We would like to go on to the next question, please. We'd like to go on to the next question. So the next shareholder, please. Could we go to your question, sir? If I may. I just made a request. I did not ask a question. I just put a request. I did not ask my question.
ではご質問の方
Then your question, sir. My first question. I'm not sure whether or not full-time statutory auditors are here because you did not introduce yourself. But so full-time statutory auditor, they have interviews and contact with the executives on a day-to-day basis. They also pay site visits to various sites. So, in order to change Nissan, full-time statutory auditors, I'm sure that they have done many things up until now. But under the new team structure, what do you intend to do? What do you think needs to be done in the context of full-time auditor? That is what we would like to hear.
わかりました。じゃあ今の
Thank you. With regard to the question, I would like to ask Mr. Nagai, the head of the audit committee, to respond to that question. Mr. Nagai, the floor is yours. Thank you. My name is Nagai, the head of the audit committee, and thank you for your question, sir. As you're probably aware, since June of last year, we have a three-committee-based structure as a company. So with the audit committee, the members are 5 all together, and I am the chairman of the audit committee. Aside from myself, 4 out of 5 are outside independent directors, and that is the structure. Now, based on that, I'm a full-time statutory auditor, so I come to Nissan every day. And also, as was pointed out, We pay visits to the dealers as well as to factories, as well as to bases outside Japan, and this is on quite frequently. And also, the president, management team, CEO, COO, and other executive officers, and also corporate officers, I would receive report about their activities on a regular basis. With regard to strengthening the governance, when I was a full-time auditor, I was not able to prevent the misconduct by Mr. Gon, and I sincerely and gravely accept that situation. So how can we improve the corporate governance going forward? As far as the structure is concerned, we have a 3-committee-based structure now as a company, and the feature is that the internal audit division that now directly reports to the audit committee. And also with regard to compliance, for those above corporate executive officers, when there are issues related to compliance, then they would not be involved, and the audit committee would directly receive the report, and the executive officer would not be involved in that reporting process. And also, we have coordination with outside auditing firms. That contact takes place on a very frequent basis as well. So through that, we are trying to improve governance. And I think that leads to the strengthening of the overall structure and team in place. So to put it more bluntly, quite frequently now we pay visits to the ground, on the ground. So all the issues that arise on the ground and all the challenges that arise on the ground, it's important that we communicate that to the executive team so that Nissan will be an even better company down the road. So we want to make sure that we encourage the executive team, we work with the executive team so that we can further improve the governance. That is the role we play. So I would appreciate your understanding. Nagai-san, thank you. Thank you very much, Nagai-san. Thank you for that. I do hope that with regard to the midterm plan that you're going to be coming up with, I hope that the executive team will not be very lax in their vision, so that they should not run amok. The auditors should monitor the executive team. So that is all. Thank you very much.
それでは次の株主
Moving on to the next shareholder. Please ask your question. Please state your attendance number. 1049 is my number. Partnership with Google in the driverless car and connective car. What's the current status and the outlook? That's the first part. And secondly, EV technological engineers and talents. In China, there's a concern about the spillage of the technology to China. And some of the media are saying that rather than alliance with Renault, it's better to partner with Japanese car makers like Honda and Mitsubishi. These are the speculations that we are hearing from the media. If there's a capital participation, I think it will be beneficial for the share price. What's the current status and the outlook on this subject, please?
はいまず
Yes. Starting with the media report about the possible partnership with Mitsubishi. Alliance members, it consists of Renault, Nissan, and Mitsubishi Motors. We don't discuss about the capital structure now. As I said, each partner company have a difficulty in revenue and profits. So we are complementing the strengths and weaknesses and discussing how we can support each other. Since the Alliance Operating Board on the 30th of January, and as we said in the media scrum, we are continuing to discuss on the benefits or how to leverage the alliance. And in the following month, we are going to discuss and work out the details. And in May, when each entity is going to announce the revised midterm plan, we will take that opportunity to elaborate on the details. And the second question, which is about China, EV operation in China, the spillage of technology to China. We are making sure that technologies are worked out in Japan, and we have a joint venture partnership in China with an appropriate operation. So please reassure that there's no such concern. And regarding the relationship with Google, so far consistently, we have been working to develop the mobility services and revising the operation and updating the operation for better value for the customers. And in doing so, we are specifying the core competence of the car maker and the areas where we should work together with the partners. We cannot make any comment on the details today, but including these efforts, we are going to make an announcement in May when we talk about the revised midterm plan.
それでは
Moving on to the next shareholder, please state your attendance number and then ask your question.
よろしければ
If I may, now the Q&A session has gone on for quite a while. We would like to limit further comments to just 2 more people. Thank you. Attendance number 1778. It has been long hours, and Uchida-san, I'm sure you have black circles around your eyes. And I understand. I can see that you have a hard job in your hands. And your communication. I accept your communication style. Going forward, as you steer the Nissan with long history and tradition, well, I have to say, Nissan was on the verge of collapse when Mr. Gon arrived, but it's much better now. So please steer the company to the right direction. There are 2 things that I would like to point out. Resigning people, Saikawa-san and other people who are resigning. With regards to severance package, are you going to pay them retirement allowance? Yes or no? That's a question. And after this, will they remain as advisor or consultant? Maybe Saikawa-san, I'm sure. Saikawa-san ousted Mr. Gon. You have a track record of ousting Mr. Gon. So I'm not saying that it's problematic to retain Mr. Saikawa as an advisor because he is competent. Will he remain in the company? That's my question. And the other question, misconduct around compensation. I don't think it's a misconduct, but some of the media are saying that Mr. Saikawa is going to give back the overpayment of the compensation. Are you going to give back, or are you planning to give up, or you have given back the money already? These are my questions.
まず退任した
Yes, resigning directors. The severance package for the directors who are resigning. Ihara-san, the chair of the compensation committee, will make a presentation on this point. Thank you for joining our shareholders meeting and giving us a question. Yes, you talk about the advisory system. Compensation committee have been holding discussion on these subjects, and going forward, the advisory system has been abolished. So he will not remain in the company as an advisor. With regards to severance package, traditionally, we didn't have a clear policy and systems for the severance package in Nissan. So compensation committee held a lot of discussions on this subject. The reason for resignation and the way to select are now clearly defined. And thanks to this clear definition, no matter who the director is, considering the company results, the severance package will be decided. That's what we have decided at the committee. And as you asked, SAR overpayment. With regards to SAR overpayment, he agreed to give it back, so he will give it back. Thank you. That's all.
はい、井原さんありがとう。
Ihara-san, thank you very much. Now, this will be the last question from the floor. Next shareholder, please. Please state your attendance number and ask your question. Uchida-san, thank you for your good job. For 2.5 hours, you have been interacting with the shareholders. This is one of your important job. Thank you very much for taking your time. Looking at you, you are very calm, very settled down, and you don't talk about all the unnecessary details. So gradually, shareholders are being convinced on relying on you for the management of the Nissan. 3396 is my attendance number. And I have a concern, by the way. One is you transition to 3 statutory committee format that has been announced last year. And today, in nomination committee have the personal matters decision right, and compensation has the right to decide the compensation. And audit committee involves the auditor who are showing up every day to audit the performance and operation. There's no such company that does this. So I find it very strange. Uchida-san, you're working hard, I understand. But behind the scenes, do you have something behind the scenes, the things that are not visible in the eyes of outside people like us? And CEO's assignment is to carry out fundamental reforms. So, if nomination committee doesn't like you, Mr. Uchida, and may remove you from the CEO position, or important factor of CEO's job is to grow your successor. And because of the existing of 3 committees, this is becoming very intransparent, unclear. In order for, without meddling with all the things that are done by the committees, and make sure you don't have to ask the committee members to speak up, you need to demonstrate strong leadership. And my last question. The 3 committees, especially nomination committee, Saikawa-san, you couldn't decide the next CEO of the company. This is due to what have been done by the ex-chairman, but I think you are too careful. So, Uchida-san, what's your thoughts about the 3 committees? You may be too overly careful. Okay. With regards to the 3 statutory committee format, it's about enhancing corporate governance structure. In January, we submitted an improvement status report to the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Specifically, we adopted the 3 statutory committees and the organization and function which are reinforced for the board. Reinforcement of management subsidiaries and affiliates, reinforcement of audit operation. These improvements were submitted to the TSE under the new corporate governance. We are continuing to implement all the necessary improvements based on the improvements that we planned. So we will continue making the corporate governance stronger. Needless to say, my say as a CEO will be heard by the governance committee. And within the board, we also hold the discussion with transparency on this subject. Therefore, the weaknesses that we used to suffer from will be reinforced with the comment from the governance committee and make the company better. In doing so, the job can I ask as a CEO? Of course I can. Therefore, I would like the CEO and other officers who are in charge of execution are dedicated to the revival of Nissan, and we have to demonstrate that we are delivering results. I think this is part of the mission of mine, and with this strong determination, we are working hard as a one team to make Nissan better. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Uchida. I don't want you to be a puppet of the committees. Make sure you are steering the company. I am counting on you. Thank you.
それではすでに十分な
As a full discussion on the subject matters of this meeting has been carried out, we would like to close the question and answer session and proceed to take a vote on the proposed item. From this point forward, we will only be taking a vote on the proposed item. Please understand that we will not accept any comments, including any motions.
議案採決
So we would now like to proceed to the vote on the items. Now, I would like to proceed to take a vote on the proposed item. The vote will be based upon your applause and shareholders voting, which occurred prior to the meeting by voting forms and the internet, as well as those who voted by power of attorney. We would like to take a vote on the item, which is election of 4 directors. The candidates are, as I mentioned at the opening of this meeting, Mr. Ashwani Gupta, Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto, Mr. Pierre Florio, and myself, Makoto Uchida. I would like you to express your affirmative votes by applause. Thank you. I declare the item approved as proposed by a majority of shareholders.
いたします。ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. We have concluded the item set out for today's general meeting. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the shareholders for your serious deliberation and your valuable time. At this time, I hereby declare the closing of the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders of Nissan Motor Company Limited. I would like to take a few moments to introduce the newly appointed director in this meeting other than myself.
皆さん、
So please come on to the stage. So I would like to introduce the new director, Mr. Ashwani Gupta. The second new director, Mr. Hideyuki Sakamoto. The third new director, Mr. Pierre Florio. Your kind consideration and support for these directors would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Please return to your seats. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation today.